Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where we're talking about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of the originals, the latest episode of Colony, as well as the series premiere of Reverie. Like always, if I'm talking about something that you want to listen to, you can always look in the description down below. I include a time when I start talking about each of the respective shows. So for example, if you want to hear what I say about this week's episode of the originals, you can skip to what I say about this week's episode of Colony, and or skip to what I say about the series premiere of Reverie. But the first thing I'm going to talk about is this week's episode of the originals. A great episode. A lot of stuff went down. Let's just break it all down. First of all, I wasn't expecting things to turn out the way they did immediately. Like, I wasn't expecting when Hope and Roman got to the place. Like, the fact is that Haley would already be sitting there in chair. I did not see that come. I thought, like, okay, you're going to go through the whole binding and stuff like that. I didn't know, but I guess it makes sense why Haley would be there, so she goes through the binding as well. But it's so interesting because he was like, wait, don't touch the door. Like, there's a witch, there's a spell on it. And it's like, what would have happened if she had touched it? I guess she would have gotten knocked out. Because that's the sad thing with Roman. He actually does care about Haley. Like, yes, this is all part of the plan, but it's a situation because he got to know her, understand her struggle a little bit. He got to know her as a person. And for him, that's why he kept saying, like, during the car, he's like, no, even if you bind your werewolf side, it doesn't matter, you won't change. Because for him, it's like, yeah, this will happen, but it's like, hey, you'll still be you, because you're amazing, you're awesome. Like, he legitimately cares for her. So, and it's sad, and Haley had to talk to him. It's like, you think your mom cares, she doesn't. She's just going to kill us when it's all said and done. She's like, what? And he's like, no, my mom wouldn't do that. It's like, yeah, she wants us to, because she wants to get rid of us. But it's like, and that's the sad thing, and it's to Roman and Antoinette, that neither one of them, they're all just pawns in their mom's game, because she believes so wholeheartedly in what August believed in, that, was it August or was it Augustus? I thought it was August, right? Yeah, like everything he believed in, she wholeheartedly believes. I don't know. It doesn't seem like Antoinette necessarily shares that. To be fair, we haven't seen her in certain circumstances. Like, I mean, there's the whole her and Klaus situation, but that's just because it's like, oh, you came here to, like, get in the way of me and Elijah, could be the argument. Or maybe it's just because she doesn't like him for what he is. But even, like, Roman, like, I don't know. It's a hard situation to really say, like, they don't 100% agree, but at the same time, they believe it on some degree. Like I said, it's hard to say whether Antoinette does. She brought up an interesting point, because she's talking about, like, how her mom's all like, oh yeah, the purity of vampires, but it's like, you're walking around with a day ring on, because apparently she got a new one. That's interesting. Of course, she would take advantage of that. We still don't know about Josh's condition. That was something that wasn't brought up in this episode, but nevertheless, that was so interesting, because it's like, oh, like, because, she's all about, like, the natural. It's like, we kind of deny how we died and stuff like that. And, her, Greta kind of plays into that. And she's like, oh, eventually it's going to take someone to re-educate vampires into realizing who they are, that they are different, that we are kind of the superior species. It's so interesting, because it's like, oh, we can't have an apex predator higher than us. It's like, oh, we have to be the top of the food chain, essentially, Because it's so interesting, because it's like, yeah, this is all about keeping everyone divided. It's like, ew, witches, their food, werewolves, ew, they're disgusting beasts. That's what this is all about, keeping separation. And Haley nailed it, and I thought so. Like, because I kept bringing it up, like, Hope could literally be the one that brings everyone together, and that is what this is all about. Because by binding Hope and getting rid of her, not only preventing future hybrids, but it's also about preventing the unification, because Hope represents all three sides of the supernatural scale, which vampire dad, werewolf mom. So she represents all three. So she represents the understanding of the supernatural triangle. So, and that's what someone like Greta fears so much, is the fact is that someone like her could do that. They're all about fear and, like, separation. So, because it's also something that kind of plays into it, where it's like, Roman's thought, it's like, well, you see what Klaus did. It's like, Klaus being a hybrid didn't do that. Klaus's upbringing, him being who he is personality-wise, is why he did all that. Like, it wouldn't matter if he was a hybrid or not. He still would have done what he's done. I mean, to be fair, the whole hybrid situation added fuel to the fire, just because it's like, oh, part of who he was disgusting to people, so it was kind of hidden away. Like, his mom found him, never good enough for his dad type of situation. So all that kind of played a contributing factor in all of it. So all the while, you have Caroline and Klaus. It's so interesting, because it is that whole aspect of, like, because of what Klaus is Klaus is finally entering those stages of fatherhood because it's like, yeah, worried, sick about everything, like making sure that they're okay. She's like, yeah, you're literally becoming a parent now. Like you're full on fatherhood because it's like, that's the whole thing about fathers worry about their children, but it seems like fathers worry the most about their daughters. And she's just kind of being rebellious, which Caroline is like, yeah, like who doesn't like, oh, I remember that like stage in my life too, where I was like all about the bad boys. Sometimes they were like way older than me, and it kind of turns into a little thing between her and Klaus about their whole situation, which she even admits. She's like, I didn't regret like ever meeting you or the time we spent together, because the thing is like, Klaus is very self-deprecating because in his mind it's like no one could actually ever love me or care for me, and that's always been his greatest fear when it comes to Hope. And it's something that Caroline was getting at. It's like before he was her hero, he was her knight in shining armor, but now it's like she's older now. You have to earn that title in her eyes. You can't just like expect her to feel that way about you. She's older now. She's not that little girl anymore. So show her that you're that person. You want her to see you a certain way, then be that person. Show her. It's kind of like what Caroline was trying to get across. But she even brought up an interesting thing where she's like, yeah, we're not the same people we were back then, like both her and Klaus. And Klaus is like, I feel like I haven't changed. She's like, what are you talking about? Even I'm like, shut up, Klaus. Yes, you have a lot of tendencies that you had in the past, but you've grown so much, even over the course of everything from the Vampire Diaries to especially over the originals. You've grown so much. You've shown so many times empathy you never would have had in the past. You've shown love and concern for your family in a way that I feel like you've never done in the past either. Like you have grown so much. So it was kind of neat. It's interesting too because Caroline was like, yeah, like she thought like Klaus saw in her the innocence that maybe once upon a time he had that he felt like he could never get back. And she's like, yeah, if we had met each other at this point in time, if we had never met before, you probably wouldn't even look my way. But he's like, Caroline, you're breathtaking. Like, of course I'd notice you. It'd be impossible not to notice you. Which kind of was kind of bit going around in my mind, like, would that potentially be a thing or not? Like Caroline and Klaus. That's kind of like what my mindset is. So I don't know how long this is after the whole Stefan situation. So I mean, I forget. Like, I keep always confusing myself with the timeline of the show, but nevertheless. It's been a couple of years, so I don't know. I don't know if necessarily it seemed like they're being a little flirty, but I don't know if even Klaus is trying to take those steps back. I think he's trying to focus on Hope for right now. So I don't know if he's even kind of being that interested in the whole situation. And then the whole sad situation with the fact is that you have Elijah being manipulated by Greta. She's like, oh yeah, Roman, he might be in trouble. He's dating that Hope Michelson, and Klaus will be so pissed. You're the only one strong enough to stop him. And even Greta, even Antoinette was kind of like, you don't have to do this. Like, really don't. But it's like, oh, look at him. He's being my knight in shining armor. I was like, you're feeding into this. Apparently not. It turns out that Antoinette, much like Roman, had no idea about her mom's situation. Like, the moment she was like, wait, you were sent to that school on purpose by mom? It's like, yeah, I was supposed to follow around Haley. It's like the mom was just like, oh, Roman wanted to go to that school so bad. So it's like even Antoinette was being lied. Like, so it does seem like she was being honest about the fact that she kept away her family. Really quickly, I'm surprised things between her and Elijah are good. Like the last thing we left off, it was like Elijah was like, screw you for lying to me. I guess you should go. I guess they made up in between that time. That was just kind of interesting. I was like, oh, I thought you two were pissed at each other. But maybe it's a situation of like they just because they're still working things out, maybe. I don't know. It seems like they're good again, just the way the reaction between the two. But Antoinette was kind of on her way about it because now, she, like I said, it doesn't seem like she maybe on some level she's kind of devout like Rome. I mean, both of them, it's like Greta saved their lives. So for them, it's like, oh, she's like a mother to me because she gave life to me. It's like she raised them and gave them a new life, a new purpose. So that's why they're indebted. It's not even out of love. It's almost out of I guess it's a situation of they can't distinguish between love and just being indebted to someone. It's like it's almost like she's holding it over your heads that you owe her for what she's done, that they feel obligated to do anything that she wants, even if they don't 100% agree, like in Roman's situation. Haley sadly went through with the binding, but that meant she was a vampire, but it's daylight. Hope doesn't realize it until at the moment. But for her, it's like Haley knew this was going to happen, but she just wanted to make sure there was enough room to allow Hope to get away. But before she could, Greta showed up. And when the time came, Roman couldn't do it because he found out like everything Haley was saying about Greta was right. That like, the fact is, a mom wouldn't ask you to do something like this, wouldn't ask anything of you, of something especially this magnitude, wouldn't ask you to kill someone that you actually care about. Because like I said, in Roman's head, it's like, okay, we bind them and then they go, but it's like, oh, we can't take any chances. Because I was thinking that too. I was like, well, they'd be able to undo that later on. So I hope Haley's okay for now. It's like, oh, I was like, hope Klaus gets there before anyone. And it's like, because in a state, she's not a hybrid anymore. So normal means that kill a vampire could kill her. And excuse me, the whole situation of Elijah showing up, and it's just like, Haley's in there, the woman you love. Hope's in there. It's like, who cares? It's like, that little girl was everything to you, because for you, it's like, she's a shining beacon of hope in your family, and also meant a beacon of hope for your brother, the person one of the people you cared about most in this world, and the woman you cared about most in this world is there, And it's sad that, like, and I mean, I'm gonna get to it. Like, the most depressing thing ever, Haley sacrificing herself to make sure she killed Greta. Like, Greta's got her head in her, I was like, no! You see her kind of looking around, but I think in her mind, she was thinking, it's okay. I might be going, but Hope has her dad. Her dad's here fighting for her. He'll be okay. He can do this. And so I was like, Greta's just going to rip out her heart. I was like, that stuff. But it's like, Haley was like, bump that. Breaks her finger and rips it off, losing her daylight ring, and brings her into the daylight, and they both die. And that is the most heartbreaking thing. I was not expecting that at all. These new seasons, and I mean, to be fair, it's the final season. Anything can go. I was not expecting that. That is just the suckiest thing ever. Because let's not forget, the other side doesn't exist for the supernatural. That doesn't exist for this. Well, there was that whole Cade situation in the Vampire Diaries, but that's kind of like all dealt with potentially. But like, that sucked. Like, there's no other side, so it's not like she'll be waiting on that side. It's just kind of, well, no, because there's a whole Lexi situation. So some semblance of it exists on it. Like, that afterlife does exist in some semblance, but that's the only thing. And it's just like, that sucks so much. And then, it breaks Klaus's heart on multiple levels. For one, he promised Hope to get her mom back to her, and it's like, she's gone now, and he felt like he let her down. And also, the suckiest thing is, the reason this all happened is because Elijah got in the way. And I'm curious what he's going to think. Like, wait, I thought, especially if Roman talks to him, like, Roman's like, no, I was never in any danger. Mom made me set all this up. Is that going to make him reconsider things with Antoinette? The woman that he wants to love is dead too. If Elijah ever gets his memories back, he will never forgive himself for that, because he had a part to play in that. And I think even at the end, you see him just, it's not even like indifference. Like, at any point, he could have just grabbed Roman and just got out of there. It's like, no, he stayed behind, because I think it starts sounding like, I didn't think it was supposed to go down like this. Because he was so busy trying to stop Klaus of like, Roman, are you okay? And it's like, it sucks so much, dude. That is not fair. That is not fair. Finally finding her. And I guess in some semblance, I guess we could have seen this coming, because Phoebe, I always forget the actress's last name who plays Haley. Isn't it Tolkien? I know I'm butchering it. It's something with a T. I think it's something like that, but we haven't seen her a lot this season. This is kind of her first time popping up subsequently since like the premiere. So should have saw something there, but I thought it was just going to be like a situation of she's just not in the season a lot. But it's like, I thought it would be like till near the end of the season we get her back to the family, but it's like, nope. That sucks so much. And I wonder, like, Klaus, has issues with Elijah, but I'm curious, like, will this piss him off severely, because it's like, it's your fault that, like, Haley died. He might take it all out on himself because he wasn't the one able to do it. Maybe he'll blame Elijah, didn't blame himself. I'm curious to see how this all turns out going forward. Because a part of me wonders, like, well, Greta's dead, so that's the end of it. I was like, no, their family's there. I'm curious to see how Antoinette reacts, how Roman reacts with that whole situation. How Klaus is going to react to Roman or Antoinette after this. Like, Elijah better make sure he keeps Antoinette as far away as possible from Klaus, because there will be a reckoning for this, and the same thing for Roman. So he better have both their backs on this. Because the sad thing is, like, I'm sure, and the way Greta's kind of making it seem like there are other people, so there are probably other vampires on her side that believe in what she's got. I mean, it's been a long time, so who's to say over that time she hasn't amassed an army, not just in New Orleans, but all over the world that could be kind of massing for, because like now there's only two hybrids left, Klaus and Hope, and it's just like everyone from that group is going to want them after all of this, and it's just sad circumstances, dude. it's kind of interesting because all the while you had the whole situation with Vincent. Like Freya wants to tell Declan the truth because he's like, I don't understand what's going on. Everyone's not all. But like, I was wondering because there's a whole situation of like, why are you acting like this? Why do you not want Vincent? I mean, why does Vincent not want Declan to know? At first I was like, oh yeah, it's because of, and I'm blanking on his character's name, but it's the dude that was like friends with Cammy, the human dude who died last season because of the whole Hollow situation. I thought it was because of him. More probably that, but it's more so Cammy. Cammy was a person that was very important to him, and she died because she was a human that got caught up in this whole supernatural thing. To be fair, you can make the argument it was kind of in her heritage to know about this anyway. Like her family delved in like supernatural artifacts anyway, so it was kind of running through her blood, and it was like you can like. There's a lot of people that live in New Orleans who don't know the truth, sure, but you can only live in ignorance so long, especially when you're caught up in the middle of this. But the thing Ivy was trying to get across to him, it's like, and it kind of applies to Freya, Hope's situation too, because it's like she was telling Vincent, you don't deny any part of yourself, which is something like, you know, Haley was trying to get across to Hope. It's like, yeah, breaking all the bones in your body to turn into a wolf, yeah, it's painful and it sucks super hard, but that moment of just running free is like the best feeling in the world, you know? So there's give and take with it, you know? So, but kind of saying the same thing to Vincent, that basically Cammy ended up in the situation she did because of her own free will. And it's kind of something I want to kind of bring across too. It's like everyone's life has bad stuff in it. Like bad stuff is going to follow you no matter whether you're full on in the supernatural world or not. Like, but that doesn't change the good that happened. Yes, things were complicated with Cammy, but there was a lot of good. She gained a lot of friends, a lot of people who care about her from being part of that supernatural world, and you can't deny that from her. Like it's like you're taking that away from her, like taking, you know, like her choice if you didn't let her know. And she, you know, I'd be saying the same thing should happen for Declan. It's something that Freya and Vincent both kind of agree on eventually. It's like they both wanted to protect Declan in their own way, because Vincent's like, if I didn't tell him the truth, I can keep him away from kind of ending up in a bad situation. But in Freya's case, it's like, I thought I could help him get away from his grief. In the end, Vincent didn't tell him because he ended up finding out, like, oh yeah, he's Cammy's cousin. Didn't expect that, which begs the question, did Haley know that? Because that'd be kind of interesting. Obviously, the whole, like, Klaus and Cammy situation, and now, like, oh, a family member of Cammy's and Haley, and I don't know, it's just kind of interesting. But maybe she knew, maybe she didn't know. But that kept Vincent from saying anything, which maybe in the end he'll regret it, because it is that situation of he is entitled to know the truth about everything, because it might break his heart even more so now that he knows that Haley's gone. And it's like, well, how do you explain that? Like, he's going to have so many questions, and he's going to be diving into this himself. And, you know, if he doesn't hear from the right person, like, you don't know what kind of effects that could have on him later, you know, what that could end up driving him to. So it is kind of interesting because you also had that conversation between Freya and Vincent about, like, they're not immortal. It's like, we're so caught up in all these immortal problems. Like, what about us? We still have our lives. If we're not careful, everything's gonna dwindle away. So it's like, Vincent, when this is all said and done, you better ask Ivy out. And it's kind of, and Vincent's like, when this is all said and done, you better find Keelan again so you can, like, make things up. So I like I said, I get the feeling like we're going to deal with more of people like Greta's family and stuff like that. Like I said, I'm so interested to see where this the next episode takes us. Like, this was just kind of a downer. That was like the most heartbreaking way to end this episode, with that. And it's just like, that sucks so much. And which kind of brings me to the thought, like I kind of had, like, things are not going to end they're probably end beautifully, but still end very sadly, much like the Vampire Diaries in this case. Like, Vampire Diaries held no punches near the end too. So I don't know, it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out in the next episode. And now moving on to this week's episode of Colony, a crazy episode. In this episode, we finally learned about what happens to bugs. That's what Vincent kind of nicknamed. And I guess I'm not surprised. I figured as much, but now we kind of understand the full circumstances behind it. Basically, it turns out McGregor isn't much of a fighter. He's easy at barking out orders, trying to rally up groups and stuff like that. But when it comes down to it, he doesn't get to the nitty gritty. Like, the reason why things ended as badly as they did for Bugs and Vincent, like, they were all on top top of us so quickly is because McGregor didn't hold up his end of the deal. Like, the fighting came, rather than going down swinging, he ran away, and Bugs called him out for it. Bugs even pointed a gun at him, and Vincent was told to choose a side, and sadly Vincent chose his side. And later on it's like, oh, because you never second guess yourself, which is stupid. In a level, it makes sense. Like, you want a leader who doesn't second guess himself, but it's like, you want someone who weighs the option. The fact is, he doesn't second guess himself is a huge freaking flaw in his character. It's because of him not willing to see things differently, kind of like because of his own paranoia. Like I said, because it seems more so like because of his whole conspiracy theory background, it makes him very paranoid all the time, and he's just not willing to even give leeway in any circumstances. It's so interesting because he's worried about, deceit and stuff like that. You literally pushed for a guy to get killed because Vincent put a bullet in his back. It's like, we didn't really have to kill him, but I'm sure McGregor didn't say anything, but I'm sure he was kind of like, yeah, we need to do it. We need to get rid of him. We can't have this power struggle. On some level, I was like, maybe that's what Bugs I knew Bugs was either dead or he went off somewhere else or something like that. I figured it had to be more so the former than the latter, but still, you're kind of hopeful. It's like, man, that sucks. Well, Vincent had talked about it before, but still, like, that things had gotten ugly, that he had died, but we didn't know about the circumstances. Like, on some level, I think I'd forgotten about that when they first came to the camp. So maybe on some level I was thinking like, he's out there kind of massing his own arm. No, he's dead. So that sucks under the circumstances. But basically it turns into this huge interrogation of the Bowman family. Start picking things apart. He's... slowly but surely, the truth kind of comes out bit by bit. I did like that McGregor did slip up and he was like, did your whole family live together? And you have Will being like, what? He's like, did your whole family live together? He knew then. It's like, yeah, except for Charlie, because he lived in Santa Monica. Even Vincent calls him out for it later on. It's like, you gave Will the tip on what we knew because you said that. So there's like, which is good on Will for figuring out. He's like, the fact is he says that. And like a split second too, that's probably why he probably told him to repeat it so he could like get another second to think. And it's like, yeah, Charlie wasn't with it. It's like, yeah, that's good, Will. It's like, that is like on freaking ball. They try to keep up the lies, but eventually the truth comes out because it's that situation of like, well, you don't know who told who what. Sadly, Charlie never told the truth, but Gracie did, because it's just like, I think after Charlie's circumstances, it probably, like, for one, McGregor's kind of a scary dude, but on top of that, probably after his circumstances in Santa Monica, it probably terrified him to kind of be back in that situation with someone abusive and someone in power like that, because you see him kind of jump a little bit. Like, I feel like Charlie wasn't necessarily like that last season, but I think it's probably just when he looks at him, wasn't his name Solomon, the dude that had him, that kind of owned him in Santa Monica? So the truth kind of comes out little bit by bit. Obviously Will talks about the climbing the wall situation, going to get his son. Eventually Katie admits, like, okay, yes, he was on the inside. Doesn't say that, like, it's not like Will went out of his way to join, but it's like, hey, we were found out he was our inside man, the reason why this all happened. And then finally, like, Bram gets brought in, and fucking terrible person McGregor is like, okay, Russian roulette, click. And Will was just like, damn it. He's like, you son of a... It's like, dude, because even Vincent like, what the hell are you doing, dude? And then he gives Snyder up, and Snyder's like, oh, who gave me up? Yeah, you probably had a knife to his kid's throat. And Snyder lays it out. I love Snyder in this just because it's like, Snyder has those moments of he might not seem like the bravest person, but when the time comes down to it, he isn't lying. He's not brave, but he is smart, and he is a pragmatist, and he's very good at just talking. That's his skill, his silver tongue. Because it's like, yeah, so I'm going to tell you how it is. Yeah, you think that they're lying. It's like, no, our hosts are not lying, that there really is a war coming. And if you're not careful, we are smack dab in the middle. Our hosts don't really care about it. Like, all of us, we die, sure, but that's because most of those people die from labor use because, well, they need to defend themselves / defend us. So, yeah, something much, much worse is out there. So, obviously, Snyder knows a lot more than he's ever let on before, but it's kind of interesting, like, how much worse are these things than the raps. It's kind of interesting, too, because we ended up learning from him, like, multiple things. One, the Rap's little spear thing is their consciousness. It's kind of like everything that they are exists in those. And even those, there are only a few hundred. You blow up some drones, some walkers, blah, 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 blah. Yes, they'll be pissed and uppity about it, but that's just because that's a resource I got to waste to recreate. But those, it's like you destroy a rap, there's no coming back. So there's probably only like a few hundred of their species left. He does bring up one of the theories I had that basically it was some other species that made them. I think the species that's hunting them down is the one who made. It's kind of been my running thought. But he also goes like, yeah, whether they just were flesh and bones at one point in time and then just transfer their brains or their consciousness into machines, that's all we really know for now. I mean, at least that's what Snyder tells us. I mean, it's always interesting because like every time it's like, yes, Snyder knows so much more than he ever lets on. I guess it's because it's like, well, it's I guess when you really don't need to know, you don't really need to know. But even Will was kind of like, oh, maybe there's enemies. It's like, oh, he didn't really say anything about it. It's like now he has. I mean, he talks about it like, oh, I heard of rumors. It's like, you know much more than you're kind of letting on about. So that was kind of interesting. But like I said, just the way Snyder was kind of remarking and talking to McGregor, it's almost like he wasn't afraid of dying. Just kind of like, I guess because Snyder, being who he is, always keeps his calm and cool under pressure, even though you wouldn't think he does. And the fact of the matter is, he knew exactly, I mean, he even talks about it later on, he knows exactly the weakest point to strike. That ended up being Vincent, because Vincent was on the fence about this whole situation. Like, it was literally a repeat of the Bug situation. Just like, he believe the Bowmans, or does he believe, McGregor? Because the fact of the matter is, like, he knew that they couldn't have just been lying. Like, we have to believe that there's got to be some truth to what the Bowmans are saying, because for him, he didn't want another like repeat of the Bug situation. It's kind of like, does it have to be like this? It's like, but McGregor was so stuck in his way, believing like, no, they're traitors, they're this and that. Maybe if Broussard was able to get to them sooner, maybe he could have vouched for him. Because it also came out, it's like, well, why did you lie? It's literally because Vincent told us not to, like, that things get political here. So it's like, I wanted to make sure everything. He's like, no, you're lying. It's like, well, what's the whole point? His justification for it makes sense to a certain degree. It's like, oh, because once the word spreads out, like, oh, there's other enemies out there, we take our focus away from the raps, or rather clicks in their eyes, and focus on some other enemy. And while our defenses are low, they can strike, because all the other resistances look to us, because they're kind of the main hub resistance, I guess. Which, like, yeah, justification in that. But I guess in the long run, we actually think about it, that might be the option that needs to be, like, everyone needs to be taking their focus. To be fair, it's like Katie said, like, interestingly enough, she's like, the enemy isn't the raps, it isn't this other species, it's us as humans. Which kind of Snyder kind of proves that this episode, as well as all those people. I did like that he kind of tricked Vincent into, not really tricked, because he was telling Vincent like, hey, you put in this word and then everyone can be saved, because maybe it's just because Vincent never got a chance to get back to them, so he never was able to set the term. But it was kind of interesting, because you should have figured as much, because the code word was Roanoke. What was Roanoke? Actually, damn it, dude, that's so smart. Basically, really quickly, it's like, because I kept wondering, I was like, yeah, basically the camp turned into a bloodbath. I'm like, when Broussard and Lawrence get there, it's like, there's nobody there, there's no bodies or anything. So it's like, not unless the bodies were moved elsewhere. But remember the code word Roanoke. A whole bunch of colony people just disappeared. No one knows what happened. So I guess these bodies were disappeared just in case anyone else came across it. It's like, why else would you do that? Or those people being ground up as resources or something? Like, why would you bother doing that? Like I said, that not unless that was just an area that they weren't, because it did seem like they were stockpiling the bodies elsewhere. So I don't know. That was just kind of interesting to me. Like, I feel like if that was the case, it would have just left them anywhere. But it's like, you scooped them up for whatever reason. I don't know. So I guess that should have been kind of a clearer sign for Vincent. It could have just been that Snyder was lying to him. It was never going to be an option. I mean, sadly, Vincent wasn't a part of that onslaught anyway, because McGregor already killed him. McGregor was just looking for an excuse anyway, because he was just like, prove to me I can trust you. And it's like, constantly you question me, and now you've betrayed me again. But for Vincent, it's like, oh, I found who I was again, because he's kind of subsequently since he's let so much stuff slide, because and I guess in his mind he thought like, oh, it's a bear. Like I said, McGregor's just power hungry. He's just a scared dude who's trying to grab as much power as he can, trying to pretend like he wants to be in control, because otherwise he's out of control. Like, I wonder how many other instances of that has happened, like the whole the Bug situation, where it's like, yo, like, where the freak were you, dude? You ran away, type of thing. So I mean, because we don't really know. The only person there that probably had the most experience with McGregor was Vincent. I thought the whole thing at the beginning, though, I thought that was going to be like us getting introduced to the fact is that like that's how Vincent first met him, why he follows McGregor so loyally. I thought that was kind of the whole point. No, it's kind of showing you why Vincent kind of has like his indecisiveness. Also shows us that it was actually Bugs and the man that got sacrificed and died that led to that thing getting captured. But you had, because even Bugs was like, wait, what? Because he was like, oh, we did it. He's like, we? Mother effer, you had nothing to do with this. I love that. Like, just kind of showing you what kind of, like, he's spineless. He wants to take credit for everything. Like I said, he's very good at rallying up the troops and stuff like that. And it's even something like Snyder was getting at. It's like, you can rally up the troops. You can think you're going to inspire them, but it's not going to mean diddly squat once you destroy that host and then they wipe you out. It's like, yeah, let's not forget about the Dallas situation. I'm pretty sure all the sand in Dallas got, within a couple hundred square miles or whatever, was still turned to glass because they were just like, oh, you killed two of our hosts, pew, and shot down a laser and destroyed everything. So it's like, yeah. But obviously, I'm not talking about it. Get to it. Literally back-to-back episodes are the most depressing things ever. In this episode, I'm referencing the fact is Charlie died. Did not see that coming. I was scared. Him and Gracie running from boats. I was like, okay, Charlie, and he got hit. I was like, okay. I was like, no, he gets hit. It's like, no, he's not moving. I was like, no, it can't be. Snyder sees his body later on. I was like, that is garbage. That sucks so much. They literally just got Charlie back last season. It's not like they've had their son this entire time and they lost him. I did not see that coming. Showing you that no one in the Bowman family is safe, that any of them could drop dead over this whole situation. I was like, please tell me that he's okay and that just take him. It's like, and even Snyder, even under these circumstances, yes, he seems like, yes, he doesn't really care too much. I mean, because in a sense, Snyder does. Because the fact of the matter is, he does care about people. It's like, he ran the LA block the way he did because he was trying to because if he could keep people under control, keep people docile, then, like, there would be no problem. Like, the other, like, blocks kind of ran things their own way, but he tried to run things his way so to be less of an issue. And in his mind, it's like, oh, I saved 100, like, I've saved a lot more lives running the LA block the way I did. Which is actually, interestingly enough, that's actually what motivated Katie to join the resistance. Because for her, it was like everyone was literally trying to live their lives like it was just normal. Like we weren't just invaded and our entire lives were turned upside down. And it's like for her, she knew there was trouble around the corners. No one else could see it though. So, because we never really got like a big explanation to why she did what she did. She was just like, by the time the story starts, she was already part of the resistance. I mean, we get it was for her family, but it seems like it was partially that, but, the grand scheme of just, like, them as humanity, so. But that's the saddest thing, because he died, like, trying to protect his sister. Like, he wasn't running alongside Gracie. He let her get a head start, and he blew up the dude that was trying to follow him. And I was like, okay, good, go. And it's just like, that's the most heartbreaking thing, because they couldn't even take him with them. They had to leave him behind so that he could make sure that they got everyone out of there, and that just sucks. Like I said, even Snyder was heartbroken by the situation, because he had said it, he was like, to the dude that was like, yo, so are you going to go after the survivors? It's like, no, let them survive on it. And his mind is like, okay, the Bowmans got away. At the very least, he was kind of happy about it because he liked the Bowmans. He spent 6 months. I mean, obviously he came attached to the family already, but especially after the 6 months, and then seeing Charlie dead broke his heart. He was just kind of like, okay, we need to get the hell out, just get out of here, because on some level he was hoping that he had gotten away with his family and everything was okay, but it's like, no. I don't know what this means going forward between him and the Bowmans. The Bowmans might be pissed. I mean, to be fair, it was Vincent who set this all in motion, but before even that, it's like, no, Snyder did, and that Bowman family got caught up in the crossfire. There are other survivors too, but most of that camp seems like it got wiped out, so damn, dude. That just, like I said, it's just back-to-back episodes of just, like, depressing stuff. It just kind of sucks. Like, things are slightly more lighthearted in the next, in Reverie when I end up, talking about that, which is so funny because I'm, talking about all this stuff out of order. But nevertheless, it's just, man, that's just, like, depressing, dude. Like I said, they just got him back last season and they lost him again. At least they knew it's like, oh, he's okay somewhere in Santa Monica. It's like, now they know, like, that's the most heartbreaking thing ever, We did hear from Snyder that he is apparently going to Switzerland. He's like, oh yeah, I'm going to cross paths with a lot of people I knew, so he's going to be making moves. And I'm interested to see what Snyder does in the grand scheme of all of this. It does seem that there was this interesting thing where, like, Vincent was talking to the Click, and he was talking like, oh, we're going to destroy you, and it glowed, or bright red. What does that mean? Was that it trying to signal something, or was that it trying to say something? Obviously, we don't know. Who has the gauntlet? Now that I'm thinking about it, I mean, I assume the gauntlet was probably like recaptured, but maybe not. I don't know. Maybe like I said, maybe they got it, or maybe I don't know. I don't think they would have had time to grab it. I feel like the person that probably had it is McGregor. I was almost about to be pissed if we ended up finding out that SOB survived. It's like, no, he's there. He's dead. Because even Snyder was like, yep, he's right there. So, but, it's interesting, too, because he was like, yeah, how would they find out that we killed one of the hosts if it can't even get a signal out to let others know where it is? And Snyder's like, do you know your commanding officer? Would he ever shut up about having killed a host? It's like, no, so they would have tracked you down like that. So, which I truly and wholeheartedly believe. So, like I said, just overall a crazy episode with some discoveries, but mainly what went down. Like I said, because of how things went down, I was like, oh, they must have gotten away. Couldn't have been any casualties or something. I was thinking like, okay, Vincent ends up getting everyone's, like I was kind of hoping like, oh, he'd get everyone safe. Like I said, I don't know if Roanoke was kind of supposed to be like oh yeah, come in, we'll try and make some deals or whatever, set the conditions or rather demands, but it's like, no, it might have just been a kill order of like, yep, come and do that. So that might be it, but I don't know. Seems like it most likely is, because like I said, Nautilus Vincent just never got a chance to. Nevertheless, they didn't get a chance to get back to him, but I kind of get the feeling like it was probably like a wipe everyone out thing. So you knew something was up the moment Snyder was like putting those erasers in his ear. So I was like, that was kind of luckily, because the Bowmans, Katie, Will, and Bram were about to get like executed in very terrible ways. So that weapon that went off, I wonder, is that something that they can, I mean, I'd assume that's the host. I don't know. It must be some technology they have. It's kind of like being able to kind of like, discombobulate people like that. But nevertheless, I don't know. Like I said, I'm so very interested to see where the next episode takes us with all of this. Like I said, great episode, but at the same time, so freaking depressing. Like the most depressing ending right there. So. And now moving on to the series premiere of Reverie, a great premiere. A lot of this I kind of went into knowing a little bit about the show, but I do like that. Still walking away from this episode, I am surprised, obviously learning more and more about this program. It seems that it is kind of a widespread program. It seems like these are the only like anomalies. I've seen stuff later on in the episode. It's kind of like, nah, it's popping up other places too. Now, what specifically is happening there? I don't know. I thought like, I never knew exactly like Dennis Haysbert's character, Charlie. I didn't know what role he played in this. It seems like basically, I mean, it's interesting. Like basically it seems he's kind of an investor in, I mean, he's part of this whole company situation. So obviously like, and it goes wrong, he's kind of liable for it and stuff like that. So I didn't know what his connection was to Reverie. I thought he's just doing this like, yo, Mara, come do this for me. It's like, no, it's like because he has personal stakes in this. So, but I didn't realize like he was connected to the company, why he would care that much. I just thought like, oh, maybe he was just kind of, someone told to go get her. Apparently it seems like going to Mara specifically was just 100% Charlie. Like no one else was really down for it. Because even Alexis, but just calling her Lexi, even she wasn't 100% down for this. I mean, it's understandable because this is her baby, this is her project, and I guess it's just kind of like the thought of like something like it's kind of like because it sucks for her because it's like yeah, there might be issues here and there, but it's like it's just a couple outliers. Why should it matter that much? It's just at this point in the show, it's like oh, it's only 7. Obviously, like I said, there's more, but it's kind of like. It could basically destroy everything because the company will lose money. Most likely her program will get scrapped. I mean, to be fair, who knows if the Reverie is all there is to it. She might have plans for much more for Reverie. I'm skipping around, but obviously when you look at the episode, we ended up finding out like, okay, so most likely she probably created Reverie because it turns out like the AI system that runs the building is her brother, Dylan. So and you see some pictures and stuff like that. So because Dylan's like, oh, games we used to play. And she's like, I forgot exactly what he had said, and she was like, yeah, with a sad look on her face. So obviously he died. But the fact is that he has such a kid voice, even in the program, must mean that he was a kid when he died. Because a part of me was like, if you have Reverie, why did you create him as an AI instead of Reverie? But then I was like, well, what if he died prior to a very social media like heavy world. Like that only social media only became very prevalent more recently. Like it boomed over the past couple years. But if he died like before that, there might not be enough, because the system is based around your social media footsteps. And it's like, if you never had a social media to begin with, like she might have some old photos and stuff like that, but there might not be enough there to program him. I still feel like you could digitize a lot of the stuff that does exist. She has pictures and stuff like that, but once again, it's probably not enough like it would be for everyone else. So that might be a contributing factor. Or maybe it's just one of those things as a creator, you just can't. As a creator, it's like you don't test your own subject. I mean, you don't test your creation on yourself. Or maybe there's an outlier reason herself. Maybe it's kind of like the main reason why a lot of these people are getting stuck in Reverie. Maybe that's one of the reasons why she doesn't want to. Not necessarily their specific reason, but like she has a reason of her own that if she goes in there, maybe she feel like she doesn't deserve to be happy or something like that. I don't know. We also learn about Mara's situation too. That's very interesting. It's like I knew her circumstances weren't great. Like that she's coming into this with her own troubles, but I didn't know exactly what her situation was. It turns out that I can only assume her brother-in-law killed her sister Janie and her niece, which is like. And the hardest thing is because she is like a negotiator, like she couldn't use her skills to translate that over into a situation where it mattered the most. She's very, very good at her job, very best, because she's super observant and kind of piecing things together. I think, probably in a sense, you can make the argument probably empathy is probably her superpower in a sense. So, but it's sad that those circumstances led to that, because it was part of me wondering, would Ray kind of pop up in the episode later on or not? But it's like not later in the episode, but maybe later in the season, because the last thing we saw was he shot Janie and Mara's niece, but never himself. But then later on, it shows him shooting himself. So it sucks, because I'm sure I thought that was going to play a part in the episode, in the show, because it'd be like, oh, she still has to perpetually deal with it because Ray's still alive and he's in jail or something like that. But maybe it hurts even more because he is dead. It's like he doesn't get to be punished for what he did, so. But Reverie is quite fascinating in everything that it does. Obviously, it's basically like a dream come true. Like, there are limits to what you can do, obviously, for now. Because certain versions of it, obviously, like the 1.0 has kind of gone public. But obviously, this is based around the 2.0, which allows her to get inside of it, other people's reveries. But it was interesting seeing the training program and stuff like that. So I thought that was kind of pretty neat. It's actually like fantastic, just beautiful, like what this world is able to create. Like I said, it's almost like a dream. In this particular case, the one dude was Tony. And what I thought was so fascinating about his reverie is like I forgot to call her Laura. Mara goes into a room that's kind of like, she opens one of the doors and it's that festival place that her and Tony and Naomi just were at. And so I'm like, okay. And you see them all kind of stand there and they turn. So I guess it's a situation of like, there are it also depends on the person's reverie. I'm sure everyone's reverie is going to be different and kind of, it depends on the person. But maybe that's supposed to represent like all these different areas, most important areas he set up in his particular reverie that, okay. And it's like that reverie waits for you to come in. So till then, everything else is paused, because the moment she came through the door, everyone turned to her, didn't do anything. They just turned to her. It happens later on, because it seems like the reverie bends to obviously its like user, because when Tony was like getting pissed at her, everyone stopped and kept doing what they're like. One dude kept pouring a drink, but everyone kept staring at her, which she was kind of like, no, it's cool. It's good. Because obviously it can't hurt you physically, but still, like, it seems like if need be, the reverie can go on the offense. I mean, like I said, it seems like it bends to your emotional state. So the moment she started like raising problems, red flags, it started being like, wait, what? Even to the point that the reverie started kind of ripping apart at one point in time. I thought that was kind of fascinating. So it's hard to say whether that's because like Mara was there kind of screwing with it, the reason why it was happening, or was it just Tony's own emotions leading to that? Because at that time he saw the butterfly and it's kind of like, okay, so, at first I was wondering like, oh, is the butterfly supposed to be a key sign for Mara? Is that kind of be her guide throughout the season? It's like, no, it's like that was something specifically to Tony. And I kind of figured as much when he was glaring at it. It's like, oh, so that's not like a Mara thing. That's a him thing. So It also seems like when the Reverie kind of falls apart, it seems like it affects the other person, not the main people in there, because Tony was fine from it when it started happening, but maybe given enough time, if the deterioration kind of continues and it kind of rips itself apart more and more, maybe it eventually would. Maybe that'd be the sign that someone's getting closer to death, because they're kind of slipping into it forever. But maybe because he pushed Mara out in time, that it kind of like, because he was kind of like, okay, I got it back, that it kind of like fell back into place. I don't know. Either way, it's kind of, it's very interesting. His circumstances are very sad. Basically, this is all about his own guilt, because he blames himself because Naomi died because he was taking this drug named Scarin, which the fact is it seems like it isn't just like a Tony situation. I feel like that might be something we see kind of pop up later on. It's because he was taking it to stay awake so that he could, make sure that, Iris is taken care of, and is picked up and dropping off, Naomi to her appointments and stuff like that. Also working because they don't have the insurance. So he was working to buy, get the money needed to take care of him and everything. So, and because of that, he blamed himself so much for the accident. And obviously, it seems like a lot of these people don't know they're in the situation that they're in. And like, obviously, it's like almost like a therapy session. It seems like, the overall theme of the show is to kind of like help these people kind of deal with their situations, to get them to kind of like, because subconsciously their whatever situation is keeping them in reverie. In Tony's case, like I said, it was his guilt and not being able to let go, feeling like he let Naomi down. But Naomi in the program, it's like, no, you could never let me down. We're lucky, all the time that we've had together. And it's like, yeah, we're the luckiest, and, kind of having to say goodbye. So it is a beautiful thing seeing him kind of come back to the world, to his brother, to Iris. So it's just kind of, it's nice that it does wrap up very nicely. Kind of be a big bummer if it ended off like, oh yeah, things didn't work out. So that would kind of suck. What I'm curious about, like so far in the show, what's interesting to me is it seems like only one person really cares about this whole situation, because it seems like everyone else, like Lexi seems like she's got her own thing of like, I feel like she's not as empathetic to this situation, just kind of like, yeah, these people getting stuck in here is just the suckiest thing. It messes up my plans. Paul seems like the only person who really cares the most, because even he's like, oh, let me check on some stuff for, make sure everything's completely okay with Mara, because it's like, yeah, they have no idea about this whole 2.0 situation, like what the ramifications could be, what could be the long-term effects of putting two people in the same reverie. Lexi is just kind of like, oh yeah, it's a good experiment. It's like all she cares about is the program, and Paul seems like the only one who cares. Because even Charlie, it's like, oh yeah, any results you find, I need you to send them my way. And it seems like, I was like, is Charlie only interested in this crap because of like, he can't afford to lose out on everything? Because it turns out, because the lady that he's talking to, Monica, I was like, okay, so what's that all about? I was wondering what I recognized her from, and now it clicked in my head. Like after a while, her name's Catherine Morris, freaking Code Case, the TV show. Like I was like, where did I recognize her so much? She kind of reminds me of other actresses, but I'm not going to do that whole thing. Like just her hair and her face just kind of reminded me of someone else too. But I'm not going to get into that. But it's just kind of interesting to me. That even he just doesn't seem like he cares, Charlie. It seemed like, because it seems like she's working with the DOD, the Department of Defense. So they're I don't know how exactly you plan on using that, for, military wise, but that seems to be his big motivation behind this. It's like, oh, he wants all this wrapped up so he can get the big payout for being like, yo, this part of my company, yo, here. So maybe I'm being super cynical, and maybe on some level, obviously he cares about Mara, but it's like, I don't know, man. It just doesn't, because even Monica's like, yeah, you better hurry up and get this out dealt with already. Like I said, there's also like 4 more people. So are they going to say anything about that? I'm very interested to see what Charlie does in the long run. It's like, oh, you handle these 7. Yeah, only these 7 people. What about the other 4? Are there any more people? Nope. And it all depends on like going forward in like the next episode and stuff, whether Charlie admits that there are other people or not. Does Lexi know about there being other people, or it seems like Monica's kind of wiping her hands of the situation. It's like, if things keep going like this, I can't keep it hush hush. Eventually it's going to go public, and it's like, then we can't work together. But I don't know. It's definitely going to be interesting. Maybe she'll be motivated to kind of start doing stuff just because she wants to get her hands on a program. Like I said, I don't know what exactly you plan on using it for, but obviously they're going to militarize it. But like I said, I'm kind of getting that feeling from Charlie, like he might do some like duplicitous stuff, just to kind of keep this cover up. I kind of wouldn't put it past Lexi, but I feel like he's a cop. He's a former, police chief. And so I'm kind of like, I don't know, man. That doesn't seem, I don't know. That seems iffy to me. Like, you might do some, like, shady stuff later on, but we'll ultimately see. What's really interesting, too, is it does seem like Reverie is having an effect on Mara, but she isn't willing to tell anyone. I guess it's more so like, because obviously that's a big theme of this show, too. It's like, while helping these other people deal with stuff, she's got to deal with her own stuff. Like I said, her tragedy. And so we do see at one point when she was chasing Tony that she sees her niece and the bunny, but she doesn't say anything to Paul later on when he asks, like, oh, like, something, like in the middle of that Reverie situation, like, your brainwaves like spiked or whatever, and she's like, nothing happened. And at the end of the episode, we see her niece. So it seems like some lasting effects of her doing what she did is Reverie is now following her into the real world. Potentially, obviously it could be obviously it's her mind playing tricks on her, but that's kind of the whole point of Reverie. It's supposed to be like, very indistinguishable between real life. And I think that's going to be an interesting thing going forward, being able to, like, is that thing of like, are you dreaming or are you awake? What's real and what isn't, because so much of Reverie does feel real, which is scary. I mean, I guess you can make that argument that's supposed to be where virtual reality is going. So it's also interesting because, like, there's a whole situation of her talking with Dylan, which I think is funny, just because it's like, well, Sarah Shahi before this was in Person of Interest, and there's the machine. Obviously it never, spoilers for Person of Interest, eventually the machine gets a voice. I won't say who, just what it sounds like, because it'd be spoilers. But the machine doesn't have its own voice until like near the end of the series. So it's just kind of interesting, her talking to Dylan for help and stuff like that. So it's just kind of something that's floating in the back of my head. I guess it's one of those situations, kind of using going back to Mara's situation. I guess it's one of those things of like, when you have a problem, you're not really willing to admit it. You're able to help other people with their problems, but you're not really ready to face it yourself. I mean, she obviously is, because she's throwing away the bottles, the pills at the end, as well as, she even talked to Tony about it to kind of make him understand, like, oh yeah, she's kind of been through a situation too. And also the sad thing too is, it wasn't that long ago, that whole Ray and Janie situation. That was only like 2 years ago, so it's super fresh. So probably no wonder, like, it's probably going to start affecting her even more so in Reverie. So in what shape or form, I don't know. I'm very interested to see where, like, her story goes progressing forward, as well as like seeing all the different Reveries and learning more about the program and stuff like that, how it started. Like I was wondering why it started. Like I said, Dylan seems to be the big reason behind that, but maybe there's more to it. Maybe it is what I'm thinking it is, but there's, even more to it in that regard. So we'll see. Also, yeah, completely forgot about talking about the fact is that this whole situation also involves like living tissue. Like there's like living aspects to this whole program, like having to, like, the thing she gets injected with and everything, which is like, wasn't expecting that. So that's kind of interesting to see how that meant. I mean, whether, like, at what point in the technology it's falling apart? Is it something like on that side of things? Is it the program itself? Is it a combination of the two? Like, what is leading to these cases being what they are? It can't just rely on the people, because there has to be, I mean, I don't know, maybe it's a situation of Reverie doesn't mix well. I mean, obviously it's still kind of a faulty program, because it was even with Tony's situation, it was like, oh yeah, like, it was messing with his emotion, like, it kind of misinterpreted emotions of happiness for emotions of guilt. It's essentially kind of what it was kind of being phrased at. So also there's a whole aspect of like, oh yeah, it can like remove fear and stuff like that. I mean, there's a lot that it can do that I'm like, it seems like there's stuff they probably set up this episode that we'll probably see applied in many other facets. Like, obviously the whole, like, she was underwater, like Mara was underwater, and then she like breathed, like, obviously kind of taking more control, which, like I say, it's so interesting because it is almost Inception like, but this is more like a technology based Inception. So like I said, it's going to be interesting to see how far it can go. Like I said, probably given enough time. I wonder, because he was saying like, you can't fly yet. So is it just because the program hasn't reached that point, or is it just given enough time and, once she gets more training into her, like, Mara can actually bend Reverie more to her will? Like, could other people do that? Like, you'd be able to do more crazy, outlandish stuff. I don't know. Like I said, a very great premiere. These are just a lot of questions that are popping up in my head. I'm very interested to see us get more answers to a lot of it in the next episode, as well as the rest of the season. I'm very interested to see what happens next. But really, that's all I want to talk about in this episode. To the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, love life to the fullest, and enjoy it. good day, and goodbye.